When any visible people of God continue long, cold, and dead, and declining in the things of religion, there is danger that God will take away their religious advantages. The church of Ephesus were threatened with this, except they repented. They have late been in a declining way. They were grown cool to what they used to be, and if they still continued, Christ threatened that he would come and remove the candlestick out of its place. If they continue so for any long time, he would execute the threatening upon them, as is implied in the threatening, that he would come unto them quickly, which implies if they did not repent quickly. The Ephesian church had had great advantages. They had been blessed with the preaching of the Apostle Paul, as we have an account in the book of Acts, and with the ministry of the evangelist Timothy, who was a bright light in the church of God, Acts 19. And after that, it was a place of the abode of the Apostle John, and was under his more immediate care, besides their having such for their stated elders as were appointed under the conduct and direction of the apostles. And they had been fervent for religion. Their first love was warm, and their first works were very worthy and excellent. But they had declined, and were already grown cold to what they were, and were declining more and more. And therefore Christ threatens them with a withdrawing of his visible presence amongst them. Their advantages had been great. Their candlestick was a candlestick of gold, but this was in danger of being removed. Let us inquire wherein the declension and deadness of a people in the things of God appears. First, when a people grow cold and dead with respect to religion, there generally is but little said about it. There will be but little said about it in families, and when neighbors meet, you shall hear but little talk about your soul concerns. All the talk will be about the world. They'll be full of talk about their worldly business, about this and the other worldly design, about buying and selling, or their tongues will be yet worse employed in talking against their neighbors. And when there is a warm spirit in religion, will be apt to be speaking about. When men's hearts are taken up about the world, there will be little talk about anything else. But if men are full of concern about spiritual and eternal things, and they have the principal possession of their hearts, it will surely be agreeable to them sometimes to speak of them. And when there is a warm spirit in religion, it will oftentimes be the subject of conversation. Men will naturally talk about it. Of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Matthew 12, verse 34. They that feared the Lord spoke often one to another. Malachi 3, verse 16. Second, when a people decline and grow cold in religion, there is a decay of outward strictness in religion. There is not that strictness in keeping the Sabbath day, but it will be violated by people's encroaching upon holy time at its beginning, and by their taking of worldly and profane things, or by such light and diverting talk, which doesn't show that reverence for the Sabbath which is becoming it. There is not that appearance of reverence and solemnity in public worship which there used to be. There is a great decay of family religion. There is a great lack of care and pains in instructing children and instilling principles of religion into them. There is not a strict care to keep up a constant attendance on family worship and the members of the family. There is a lack of care to keep God's ordinances pure, and to hear a testimony against scandalous iniquity. Third, when a people grow cold and dead in religion, immoralities are likely to prevail. There is a near alliance between morality and grace. Though morality doesn't include grace, yet grace includes morality. And when one flourishes amongst the people, the other will flourish. And when one decays, it is an argument that the other also is decaying. If immorality is suppressed and outward religion and morality flourishes amongst the people, it is a sign that there are many that have true grace. But if immorality increases, it is a sign that the power of godliness is in declension. It is also a sign of carnal security and lack of convictions in men of their sin and danger in a natural condition. If men are cold in religion, their hearts will be warm about something else. If virtue and holiness is not pursued, vice and wickedness will be. When the people grow cold and unconcerned about the things of religion, injustice and fraud and oppression will grow. There will be an increase of a spirit of sensuality. Licentiousness will increase amongst young people. Number 4. When a religion declines, there will be decay of a spirit of love amongst neighbors and brethren. When religion flourishes, it will cause a spirit of love and peace to prevail amongst the people, and that in a number of ways. It cuts off the occasion of men's contending with each other. When men contend, it is generally about the world and worldly things. But when religion flourishes, men's minds are taken off from worldly things. They are not so much disposed to contend for their profit and for their honor, because they are more concerned that they may be saved. The world is the bone of contention, and their minds are more taken up about other things. Convictions and a concern about another world restrains men's lusts, and it is from men's lusts that comes contention, James 4, verse 1. From whence come wars and fightings amongst you? Come they not from this, even of your lusts, which war in your members? And then there will be many that will be truly gracious. And in times in which the Spirit of God is poured out upon a people, grace is likely to be more lively in its exercise in the saints than at other times. And true grace confers a disposition to love and peace. It mortifies contrary dispositions. It disposes us to pursue after peace and to be peacemakers. It makes men humble, and it is only by pride, as Solomon says, comes contention, Proverbs 13, verse 10. When religion, therefore, prevails among a people, there will be seen much of a spirit of love one towards another amongst them. But when a people are cold and dead in manners of religion, a contrary spirit will prevail. There will be a spirit of malice and revenge, a spirit of envy, and hence will come evil speaking and backbitings, emulations, wrath, and strife. The prevalence of a spirit of contention amongst the people is a certain sign of deadness with respect to the things of religion. When men's spirits are hot with contention, they are cold to religion. Fifthly, when a people decline and grow cold in religion, there are but rare instances of a saving work of conversion. Ministers preach in vain. The wicked are not plucked away. 'Tis but seldom that they hear the joyful tidings from their hearers of a discovery of the glory of Christ, and of the redeeming mercy and love of God in him to the souls of men. Old converts die, and new ones are not raised up to replace them, so that the number of saints is diminished, or at least it is less in proportion to the whole. The truly and sincerely righteous, the true fearers and servants of God become more and more thin sown. When a people long continue thus, there is a great danger that God will take away their religious advantages. When God takes any people to be his and gives them great advantages, and they, instead of improving under them, begin to decline, and when he reproves and warns them, they yet continue to decline, instead of repenting and doing the first works, they revolt more and more, and are for a long time cold and dead in the things of religion. There is a great danger of God's being provoked to remove their candlestick out of its place. This may appear from the following considerations. First, when the people are cold and dead in the things of religion, they frustrate their religious advantages. The life and power of godliness is the end of outward advantages. They are in vain to a people if they can't by this be rendered lively in religion, if they don't beget love in their hearts and cause good works in their lives. Religious advantages. They are no otherwise advantages than as the people by them have advantage to live to God and to bring forth the fruits of righteousness. They are frustrated both as they are designed as a means to be improved by a people in God's service and to his glory, and as a means of a people's own good, for they are neither when a people are cold and lifeless in the things of religion. The means are in vain. The end of them is not obtained. Indeed, God can and will so order and dispose that he will obtain his own ends and glorify his own name as he does in the heavier condemnation of a people. But so far as the people are active in the matter, the advantages they have are in vain, as the labor of the husbandman in cultivating his field or his vineyard is in vain, when there is no fruit produced. And how just is it that the people should be deprived of their advantages if they make no use of them? Why should a husbandman continue with care and labor cultivating and manuring a piece of ground that he finds yields him no fruit? Why should advantages for glorying God and obtaining salvation be continued to him that will not make improvement of them? That is the language of justice, Luke 13, verse 7. Then he said to the dresser of his vineyard, Behold, these 3 years I come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and find none. Cut it down. Why cumbereth it the ground? Second, when it is so with the people, they abuse their advantages. They don't merely neglect them and not improve them to those purposes to which they are given, but they improve them to ill purpose. They were given to them to glorify God with, but they improve them to God's dishonor. Or, as we observed, when a people are lifeless in religion, they will be lively in irreligion and wickedness. The vineyard, under divine cultivation, is not only unfruitful as to good fruit, but it brings forth evil fruit. The grapes of Sodom and clusters of Gomorrah, Deuteronomy 32, verse 32. The rain that descends upon it is to no other purpose than only to cause it to bear briars and thorns. The mercies that are enjoyed are improved in the service of Baal. The advantages and means of grace which they enjoy do but harden them in sin. When God gives a people advantages for his glory and their own good, and they make use of them as means to provoke and dishonor God, how just is it that they should be taken away? Thus, when the husbandman to whom the householder let out his vineyard abused their advantage by evil treating the Jews, themselves could not help owning that it was just that the husbandman be destroyed. Matthew 21, verses 33 to 41. There was a certain householder which planted a vineyard and hedged it round about, and digged a winepress in it, and built a tower, and let it out to husbandmen, and went into a far country. And when the time of the fruit drew near, he sent his servants to the husbandmen, that they might receive the fruits of it. And the husbandman took his servants and beat one, and killed another, and stoned another. Again he sent other servants more than the first, and they did to them likewise. But last of all he sent to them his son, saying, They will reverence my son. But when the husbandmen saw the son, they said among themselves, This is the heir. Come, let us kill him. When the Lord therefore of the vineyard comes, what will he do to these husbandmen? They say to him, He will miserably destroy those wicked men, and let out his vineyard to other husbandmen, which shall render him the fruits in their seasons. Third, God has declared that the Spirit shall not always strive with man. Genesis 6, verse 3. When God is waiting upon a people under the means of grace, them that neglect and misapprove those means, his Spirit may be said to be striving with them in two senses. His Spirit strives with them, that is, he with long-suffering bears with. He restrains and keeps back his wrath. To speak after the manner of men, there is a strife in God's Spirit to restrain his anger and to bear with their provocation. And therefore the Apostle Peter expresses the striving of God's Spirit with the old world by his long-suffering waiting. 1 Peter 3, verse 20, when once the long-suffering of God waited in the days of Noah. And God's Spirit strives another way, namely as the influences of his Spirit upon men's minds accompany the means of grace, in which God is, as it were, striving to bring them to repent. There is always a degree of the influences of the Spirit of God that goes along with the administration of gospel ordinances among the visible people of God. Now, although God be long-suffering, yet his Spirit will not always strive with men. When the people decline and grow cold in religion, it is his manner to warn them and to wait on them. But if they continue yet declining and don't reform, there is great danger that he will leave a people. And so it has been God's manner to do. So he did of old by Samaria and the 10 tribes. We have an account how God waited long upon them, and often warned them. And when notwithstanding they continued dead in the things of religion, how he removed them out of his sight, 2 Kings 17, verse 18. So he did with Judah and Jerusalem, as is represented in the parable of the vineyard in the beginning of Isaiah 5, verses 5 and 6. I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge of it, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall of it, and it shall be trodden down, and it will lay it waste. So he did with the Jews at their second destruction, signified by the parable of the barren fig tree in the vineyard, Luke 13, verses 6 to 9. Just as called to have the tree cut down at the end of 3 years, but mercy and patience stepped in to delay its destruction. But then patience itself was at an end, presented by the cursing of the barren fig tree, Matthew 21, verse 19.